If you are a married woman with a kind, loving, and devoted husband, but your intimate relationship has suddenly disappeared without his intervention or consent, this video is for you. Perhaps you have experienced this yourself, or perhaps your husband sent you a similar video. But rest assured, this part of the video is not intended to defame or judge. So listen to me. I only want what's best for you and your marriage. I often receive messages from women who have watched some of my videos and don't know what intimacy means to their husbands, and now they want to put in more effort because they love their husbands and don't want them to suffer. I realized then that many sexist marriages aren't about women's lack of interest or men's unworthiness of intimacy, but rather the result of harmful cultural lies about male sexuality and what sex represents in a loving marriage. These lies are so deeply ingrained in our culture that you may not even realize you believe them. But I'm sure it's destroying countless marriages from within. So in this video, I'm going to debunk 5 of the biggest lies you've been told about men and intimacy in marriage. I'm sure that you, like so many other women, will be able to see your husband in a different light and begin a new and exciting chapter in your marriage. Hello, I'm a therapist and relationship coach. I help couples build vibrant and fulfilling relationships. If you're new to the channel, welcome. First, a quick disclaimer. This video is not suitable for those who have experienced sexual assault, violence, coercion, or physical pain. Here, we'll focus on the general sexual readiness of couples in loving marriages and the cultural norms that hinder it. Okay, let's get started right away. Here are 5 common and harmful lies about men and marriage. The first lie is that a man's sex drive is inherently aggressive. Many women have been raised to believe that a man's sex drive is inherently aggressive, selfish, superficial, and even dangerous, and that it's something that can be controlled, manipulated, or even eliminated altogether. Yes, there are bad men, just as there are bad women, but we excluded them in the first sentence. So, you're not married. The point is, you might have been born with phrases like, men only want one thing, or men are dangerous. Therefore, when a man approaches you, you might instinctively run away. Instead of seeing a man who wants to connect, finds you attractive, and wants to get closer to you, you see a man trying to pressure or exploit you. Nothing could be further from the truth. Studies show that for many men, sex is inextricably linked to emotional intimacy. They are as intertwined as space and time. When your partner finds you, he doesn't just want sex. He wants affection, intimacy, and love. He wants to feel emotionally accepted and loved. He doesn't need all the things men learn. So, when sex disappears, your husband isn't thinking, my wife is losing interest in me. Well, my wife thinks she doesn't love me anymore. The second lie, sex is a desire, not a need. This lie seems perfectly logical. Sex is a desire, not a need. No one has ever died from not having sex, so when your husband says he's suffering, it's easy to dismiss it as exaggerated or significant. He just wants sex. No problem. He has a hand, doesn't he? Ladies, I'm afraid this is nonsense. Just because sex isn't a survival instinct doesn't mean it isn't a legitimate emotional need. It's just as important as communication, trust, and fulfillment. Desire is essential. Research has clearly shown that abstaining from sex has real and tangible consequences. For her, this means increased depression and anxiety, decreased self-esteem, feelings of isolation, decreased confidence, increased stress levels, sleep disturbances, and emotional withdrawal. They don't suffer from a lack of intimacy, but rather a lack of love. In marriage, this translates to distance, dissatisfaction, a lack of communication, a lack of trust, and the risk of divorce, as well as a deterioration of intimacy in all its aspects. In my experience, it's rarely just the physical intimacy that disappears. It's the hugs, kisses, and holding hands that vanish because every touch creates tension. Does this lead to sex or to rejection? Ultimately, all physical attraction fades, leaving you as housemates yearning for touch. From my years of working with countless couples, I can assure you that sex is not just a fleeting desire, and research confirms it. It is one of the deepest and most profound forms of communication in marriage, and it should be understood as such. The third lie is that men's desires are coercive. Many women have learned to interpret their husband's sexual desires as pressure, their frustration as coercion, and their willingness to talk about sex as a threat to their safety. This is the language of consent that has become ingrained in the culture in recent years, and for good reason. I don't agree. But when sex seems too difficult for any reason, it becomes all too easy to rely on consent language as a shield. Consent language wasn't created for that purpose. It exists to identify abuse, manipulation, and real danger, not to describe it negatively or ignore legitimate emotional needs. So let's clarify the difference. True coercion involves using threats, manipulation, punishment, intimidation, or violence to force you to refuse, saying, "I miss you, I feel abandoned," or "I can't live like this anymore," isn't coercion. It's an expression of vulnerability, and it takes courage to voice it. Of course, you can refuse intimacy, but it's perfectly fine to express your frustration and pain without using hurtful language. Of course, if you both seek a more cohesive, inclusive, and fulfilling marriage, you have the option of starting with genuine and mutual consent. The fourth lie, coercion is unjust. Let's talk about this word for a moment. Coercion. By definition, it's when someone is forced to do something out of obligation, custom, relationship, or law. It's often overlooked that compulsion doesn't necessarily mean being forced to do something you don't want to do. It can also refer to an internal drive to act in accordance with your moral principles. For example, I feel a strong urge to care for my child, and I believe it's the right thing to do because it aligns with my personality and what I want for them. This inner drive transforms a potential burden into an act of committed love. Therefore, I see the word commitment as closely related to loyalty and reciprocal kindness. But modern medical culture has distorted it into something much darker. I often hear content creators say, "No one should feel obligated to meet your needs. Commitment always implies power, coercion, or manipulation." This is simply not true. Of course, this shouldn't be interpreted that way when it comes to a secure, stable, and loving marriage. Does it mean we always feel obligated to fulfill our roles? Absolutely not. But putting ourselves first is the essence of marriage. You're there for your children when you need them, and you're there for your friends when you don't. You might chase a dog in the rain. We call that simply being a good person. But in a committed relationship, it's about sexual generosity or the idea of panic, fear, and coercion. Suddenly, everyone loses their mind. It can't be explained, even without violence. Why? Because we've been raised to see sex as a private risk, not a gift freely and willingly given to someone. Studies refer to this as shared sexual energy. It's the drive to fulfill your partner's sexual needs. Research consistently shows that this is linked to increased relationship satisfaction for both partners. If my point isn't clear enough, I believe it's only fair to be sexually generous with a good husband. The fifth lie, married women don't need sex. Many women convince themselves that they don't need sex, that they don't have sex like men, that female desire naturally fades, and that this is something to be accepted. So like most women, when you stop feeling that sudden urge, you might think, well, my sex life is over, or maybe I'm not attracted to him anymore. The good news is that if you think your man hasn't completely neglected himself, you might be mistaken. Here's what's really happening. At the beginning of your relationship, desire is spontaneous. You feel it in the moment, and you want it. But as time passes, and as the novelty fades and responsibilities accumulate, most women's desire transforms from spontaneous to reactive. Spontaneous desire is the sudden feeling of arousal. Reactive desire, on the other hand, only begins when arousal starts and continues until it does. This is common for most women in long-term relationships, but if you wait until you feel like having sex, you could be waiting forever, and so could your partner. This indecisiveness isn't good for a marriage. It's absurd to say that women don't need intimacy or exercise. While it's true that most of us lack the motivation to exercise, our bodies still need it. If you care about your health, exercise without complaint, because you know you'll feel better once you start moving. Finally, it will become part of your daily routine, as its benefits will revitalize you. Sex is like exercise for your health. It's essential, necessary, and rejuvenating, not optional. Regular and satisfying sex reduces stress, improves sleep, boosts mood, strengthens the bond with your partner, and can improve self-confidence and body image. There are no losers in a marriage overflowing with love and intimacy. I know what some of you are thinking. I'm exhausted. Of course, marriage isn't just about intimacy. Yes, it is, and much more than that. But here's the thing. Intimacy often feels draining when it's absent, because its absence creates a powerful internal current that hinders all other aspects of the relationship. Therefore, we must nurture it to its fullest potential, as it requires only a fraction of the energy needed to exist, and the return on investment is enormous, as we discussed earlier. Better health, stronger relationships, greater support, less stress, and a more robust partnership. Studies show that couples who prioritize intimacy cope with stress better, not worse. We have no choice but to eradicate it completely. Week after week, I witness the devastation that marriages devoid of intimacy cause, not only to the couple, but also to their children. And remember, monogamy is a bilateral agreement. When you agree not to have sex with another person, you implicitly agree to have sex with each other, no matter what. I'm not saying that. But in a secure, loving, and trusting marriage, this is a reasonable commitment. It means your husband can't be your last priority, nor can he be your only one. And if he were, I'd say the same about you and your needs. So, what can we do as women if intimacy has been difficult for us for a while? If your relationship with sex is strained or stressful, start softening it up, and that makes perfect sense, given the negativity culture has attached to it. We're too busy. The language of consent, of what is required and what is not, and our partner's doubts about our motives can make intimacy seem daunting, but it doesn't have to be. With a positive shift in mindset, intimacy with your partner can become, instead of a burden, a warm, vibrant, connected, and even exciting experience. If your husband has been cold or distant lately, it might not be due to anger, but rather contempt. So perhaps you should give him some space. When intimacy returns, so does love. Commit to making your intimate relationship with your husband a conscious choice, your own. You don't need a perfect sex life. That's just a movie fantasy. It's about communication, not performance. Try relaxing together while lying down. In my experience, this is a profound practice, and I find it very meaningful. Let her take the lead. If she feels comfortable, she can say yes, no, stop, continue, we can take a break, or whatever she wants. It's perfectly fine if you both feel the need for constant intimacy. Your husband will crave connection with you, his wonderful wife, because, contrary to popular belief, he desires you as well, not just the physical intimacy. Does this mean it will be easy from day one? No. Most likely not. Intimacy isn't easy for men or women. Many of us, myself included, struggle with body image issues, low self-esteem, or feelings of sexual inadequacy. But in a loving marriage, these obstacles can be overcome by reassuring your partner every step of the way. If you need support, you can contact me or my team via the link in the description. We'd be happy to help. As always, every piece of information in the video is backed by reliable research. If you'd like to see the research, you'll find a fully documented blog post with a link in the description. If this video raises any questions, join the live Q&A session with Dr. Psycho on Friday, December 5th at 11 a.m. EST. We'll be asking you questions about love, sex, marriage, and just about anything else you can think of. It'll be fun, and I hope to see you there. Click on the thumbnail here to receive notifications. I hope you find this helpful. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more discussions like this. See you next week. Until then, be honest with yourselves and others.